I need you to listen to me. I don't care how tech-savvy you think you are or how bored you get late at night when your mind starts crawling for a distraction. You don't connect to strange Wi-Fi networks at 2 a.m., especially not at 2 a.m. If you're watching this, remember what I'm about to say. Never, ever connect to any unlisted Wi-Fi at 2 a.m., no matter how curious you get. I'm saying this for your own sake. And maybe if I could go back in time, I'd say it to myself too. There's a lot of stupid stuff people do online, and usually nothing really bad comes of it. Click a sketchy link, you get a virus or some dumb pop-up. Set your password as password123, you learn your lesson the hard way, maybe laugh with your friends after fixing it. But what I saw that night wasn't stupid. It wasn't a meme or jump scare or some hacker's idea of a prank. It was a glimpse of something I wasn't supposed to see, something I still can't explain. I wish I could shake the memory, but there are flashes that beat against my skull when I close my eyes, my own reflection staring back from my laptop, except the eyes weren't moving with me. Shadows crawling along my screen, spelling out words that don't translate, and the feeling, God, the feeling of something cold and ancient pressing in from the other side of the glass. I'll get to everything, but before I do, just know there was a time when my biggest problem was slow internet or buffering Netflix, before I learned the hard way that some connections shouldn't be made, and some doors in the digital world shouldn't ever be opened.
Most nights, my routine was painfully ordinary, the kind of repetition that soothes you and kills you a little inside. I'd stay up too late, playing whatever game I was grinding that week, sometimes losing an hour or two to reruns I barely watched. My room would be dark except for the dim blue of my monitor, with the soft crackling of distant voices or the brittle soundtrack of whatever show I had looping in the background. There's something comforting about it. The hum of a working fan, the glow of string lights, the never-ending scroll of social media, each pixel a breadcrumb leading you away from boredom. On weekends, my friends and I would party up for midnight death matches, our voices flickering in and out over Discord, trash-talking with the same phrases until they lost all meaning. I knew every quirk and lag spike in my Wi-Fi. I had the network name and password memorized like a mantra, my safe little digital cocoon, unbreakable, or so I thought. But then, on a Tuesday, I think, if the calendar on my wall can be trusted, I first noticed it. 2 a.m. Not 1:59, not 2:01, exactly 2 o'clock on the dot, a new network appeared in my list. I was bleary-eyed, half listening to the drone of late-night YouTube, idly checking if my internet could handle the download, and there it was, Liminal Gate 0213, a name that didn't fit the mundane lineup of neighborhood routers, Home 276, Netgear, Starlord 57, the usual gaggle of tech-challenged neighbors. Liminal Gate 0213. As if it wasn't just a network, but a dare. I hovered over it, thumb poised, squinting at the clock. 2 a.m., unsecured, signal strength full. It stayed just long enough for me to wonder, vanishing at 2:10 as if it had simply stepped out for a smoke. The first night I shrugged it off, a fluke, maybe a neighbor fiddling with a new router or some random public hotspot leaking through the window. But when it came back the next night, I started paying attention. Same name, same time, clockwork precise. I refreshed my list like I was testing a magic spell. Each time, 2 a.m. it appeared, 2:10 it vanished. I even called a friend on Discord, holding my phone up to the display. Bro, do you see this? What is that, some kind of hidden server? Are we getting haunted by tech support? He laughed, and I forced myself to laugh too, though my voice rang hollow. I started making up stories about it. Maybe it was an experimental university network. Maybe some crusty old hacker in the next apartment. Maybe a bored software dev playing games with the neighborhood. We had a dozen dumb theories in our chat logs, but I never really believed any of them. Routine is powerful. I tried to ignore it, tried to shrink the anomaly back into my little world of normal. Pizza boxes, energy drinks, the ping of a new match. But you can't unsee something like that, can you? When the world slips the tiniest bit out of sync, the details gnaw at you. By the fourth night, it was like the network was waiting for me, as if it knew exactly when I'd be looking. It felt like the start of a riddle, a dare, or a trap. And every night after, I'd catch myself staring at those flickering network bars, knowing something in my ordinary life was no longer normal. The air felt different at 2 a.m., like something was testing the lock from the other side.
If you've ever felt the pull of something forbidden, the warning label, the hidden file, the "Do Not Enter" sign taped across a doorway, then you know what it's like to see that network pop up, night after night, like it's calling your name. At first, I told myself it didn't matter, it was just a glitch. But like a scab you keep picking, I started watching for liminal gate _0213 every night at 2 a.m. until it became a ritual more powerful than sleep. A few nights in, things stopped making sense. The network icon, a simple set of bars, would sometimes flicker, skipping frames, stretching into strange shapes I couldn't screenshot in time. Signal strength was never consistent. I'd watch it jump from full to nothing, then back to full, like it was flickering with my heartbeat or breathing in the dark. I figured it was just interference, but the rest of my Wi-Fi list never looked like that, only this one. Then my devices started acting up. Minor annoyances at first, a lag in my mouse, unfinished downloads, but the real kicker came one night on Discord. Our group chat, usually a hive of chaotic memes and smack talk, was off-tempo. Simple messages were delayed, or they'd come through in weird order. Someone would say BRB, and then 3 minutes later the message above it would glitch into a string of squares. Someone else said an emoji they sent kept playing a sound on loop in the background, even after they closed the app. Not possible, right? I joked it was lag or maybe a memory leak. No one laughed. What really got under my skin was the device list on my router. I check it sometimes, paranoia maybe, but whatever. At 2:02 a.m., 2 nights in a row, there was an unfamiliar device connected, even though I didn't click join. Just a series of symbols for the device name. Blocky, almost runic. I tried blocking it, but it would vanish before I could click. One night, I set up a packet sniffer, a toy tool from my failed days in CompSci, and logged traffic at 2:05. The log spiked hard, then flattened out. Chunks of data, but no source. When I opened it up, my text editor crashed. By now, I was getting texts from friends, half serious, half stirring up the pot. You gonna connect tonight or what? $10 says you get hacked by the ghost of dead Windows XP. Bet it's an FBI honeypot, LOL. Do it for the stream, coward. Classic peer pressure masked as irony. They started treating it like a digital urban legend. We even made up rules. Don't look at the network for too long. Don't say the name 3 times. Don't join unless you want to be cursed. Dark humor, the last defense against the unknown. But at night, after the chat went dead, it stopped being funny. I'd be sitting there, the world gone silent, looking at that name hover in the gloom. My own reflection would glint in the glass, just me and the pulsing signal icon, like a heartbeat on life support. I'd hear phantom notifications, a subtle static tickle behind my ears. Sometimes lights flickered in my peripherals, too soft to blame on the lamp. My phone, brand new, barely a month old, started showing open network available just after 2 a.m., even when Wi-Fi was turned off. First time I thought nothing of it, but the 3rd, 4th, 10th time, the message read, "Unsecured network, sensitive data at risk." I read it aloud, laughing at how overdramatic it sounded. Maybe I should have listened. Every night I hovered over the connect button, feeling something tighten in my chest. Fear or anticipation, maybe both. I rationalized it all. Paranormal's nonsense, common sense, nothing truly bad happens from one click, but the digital world is built on trust. Devices, protocols, invisible lines of code we cross without thinking. What happens when something old and hungry slips in through those cracks? Maybe I should have just ignored it. Maybe curiosity isn't worth it. But the night your friends dare you to cross a line just for laughs, when routine turns into a superstition, those are the nights you remember. That's when I stopped being sure where ordinary ends and the horror begins.
You always think you'll resist. You tell yourself right up until the last second that you won't do the reckless thing, that you know better. But then the clock turns 2:05 a.m. and you're sitting in primal silence with the blue glow of the network list hovering in front of you, and you realize the dare isn't coming from your friends anymore. it's coming from somewhere deeper inside. Maybe from whatever part of us wants to peek through open doors, no matter what's on the other side. I stared, thumb prickling on the trackpad, watching liminal gate _0213 fizzle into life, signal strong and unwavering. One more minute. I promised myself it was just for a screenshot, just proof I'd seen it, my own digital Bigfoot. But my hand shook. I hesitated, checking over my shoulder, caught by the eerie quiet, like even the house was holding its breath. Then I clicked. A pop-up slid onto the screen. Join without password? I snorted. Of course the cosmic Wi-Fi would be open. I hovered, the nagging thought that this was all a joke, social engineering, a hidden camera somewhere poised to catch the look on my face. I clicked connect. Nothing happened. I laughed in nervous relief and tried again. The cursor spun, unresponsive, unblinking. For a second, I thought my laptop had frozen. Then a new window snapped open. Enter password. Wait, what? It shouldn't have asked for one, but fine. I typed the old reliable password 123. No luck. Let me in. Nada. Liminal gate, just to amuse myself. Still nothing. The progress wheel spun, then sputtered. Incorrect password. But I could feel it watching me, like the wrong answer had stirred up a draft. My heart hammered, frustration tinged with giggles at my own superstition. Ridiculous. And then the password field glitched, the cursor flickered. I blinked, and for a microsecond, in the box, words scrawled on their own, language unknown, squirming shapes like handwritten chalk sliding across the field. My screen warped, the colors bending sickly over the edges, and a high whine drilled into my ears. I think I stopped breathing. The next moment, connection successful. No cheerful welcome, no gentle fade in. Every digital clock on my devices blipped to 2:06 a.m. sharp, like a knife, and the world around me slowed. At first, I thought my eyes were playing tricks, but everything froze. The sleep LED on my router stopped blinking. The Discord chat stuttered into blocks and dashes. My screen tore like a movie skipped on a scratched disc, and frames overlapped, messages I hadn't written, faces I didn't know. Odd, ritualistic symbols hovered at the top bar, overlaying my tabs. Static crawled into my headphones, the sound not white, not gray, but something almost metallic, threaded with faint muttering voices I couldn't quite pick out. My desktop background dissolved into a patchwork of flickers, revealing images underneath. Old hallways, empty stairwells, CCTV stills of abandoned places. They flashed from mere heartbeats, replaced by XP error windows, until the whole interface shimmered from blue to a cloying reddish hue. Then my notifications erupted. Dozens, impossible to close. Messages in languages I couldn't identify. Characters with too many angles, looping, tangled like roots. My own name appeared there over and over, but misspelled, scrambled across the pop-ups. One read, "Welcome home, fragmented glitch." Another, red and urgent, "Disconnect before 2:13." I tried typing in chat to my friends. My words came out garbled, distorted, like some autocorrect demon was chewing up each letter. On their end, I'd later find out, my icon blinked off and on, my messages appearing and vanishing before anyone could read them. One friend would swear my camera had switched on, but it wasn't me on the other side. Worst of all, for a split second, my laptop screen showed not my desktop, but my room, from behind me, as if a camera was pointed from somewhere just out of sight, silently watching me type. In that frozen frame, I saw myself, hunched and pale in blue light, but the version on the screen wasn't moving, not quite breathing. The real me stumbled backward, tripping over wires, but the digital me sat rigid, smiling. The smile kept growing. Then came the sound, a grinding digital groan, building under the hiss of static. My headset buzzed, the plastic hot against my ears. Pop-ups multiplied. Files on my desktop renamed themselves with jittery, spidery text. I watched as one file, an old essay from months ago, opened and flicked through images of stairwells and open doorways I'd never seen, each frame flickering too quickly to focus. Several browser tabs opened themselves, each to gibberish URLs, each page black except for a word in that same glitched language. I tried to disconnect. My mouse barely worked. The Wi-Fi icon stretched, pulsing like a heartbeat, and every control I pressed echoed back at me with a second's delay. My heartbeat was an earthquake in my ears. Finally, senses snapping, I reached for the power button. The laptop screen froze on that warped image of my room from that impossible angle before the entire power grid to the house went dark. The monitor, the lights, everything silent. My laptop's battery shouldn't have gone out so suddenly, but it did. In the suffocating dark, my phone buzzed once and then died, notifications lingering like afterimages on my retinas. Somewhere in the distance, the refrigerator compressor shut down. The whole world on pause. Panic, finally real, hit me. Had I broken something? Was this a prank? Or a breach? Or something worse? All I knew was that the night outside my window felt thicker, as if someone or something had made itself at home in my digital life. I fumbled for the old flashlight in my drawer, but my mind wasn't on fixing things. It was on one splitting, persistent question. Did anyone else see that? Did I just open a door that can never be shut? Nothing felt real anymore. Not my tech, not my room, not even me. And somewhere in the crawling dark, I heard a faint click, like a receiver being picked up on the other end of a call I didn't remember making.
Sleep didn't come easy after that first connection. Not the deep, healing kind, anyway. I'd close my eyes and feel the microwave glow of the laptop screen baked into my retinas. My heartbeat kept imitating those pulsing, out-of-phase Wi-Fi bars. I told myself I was just sleep-deprived, that if I powered everything down and gave it a day, my brain would reboot. But that's not how it went. In the days that followed, reality took on a jagged edge. I noticed the changes as soon as I staggered out of bed. My hallway, always bathed in warm morning sunlight, now had an anemic, flickering quality, like the light itself couldn't decide if it was on or off. The overhead bulbs in my kitchen would buzz and sputter, popping on and off for no reason, leaving me blinking in and out of shadow. Sometimes, I'd catch my own face in the black glass of the microwave or the TV screen and swear the reflection was just a half beat too late, off by a frame or two, shutter lag on my own life. It wasn't just the house. I started feeling it in my routines, as though the world was feeding me interference, static where my thoughts should be. I'd get phantom notifications. My phone would buzz in my pocket, but there'd be nothing there. No badge, no app, just the anxious certainty that something wanted my attention. The sensation began as a joke between friends, a ghost in the machine thing, but it didn't feel like a joke anymore. Then, the voices started. At first, it was the white noise of my ceiling fan, nothing you'd call supernatural. But once you start hearing syllables, whispers just beneath the hiss, you can't unhear them. I'd stop, heart stuttering, but the moment I turned off the fan, the whispers would fade. Turn it back on, they'd return, coiling among the blades, snatches of language that rattled in my chest but meant nothing. Or maybe they meant too much. My Bluetooth speaker would turn itself on, playing half a second of garbled static, almost a greeting or a warning, before I killed the power. Tech that used to be background noise suddenly demanded my attention. Some nights, I'd walk into my room to see my laptop screen on, glowing with that same reddish hue I saw during the connection. System logs, off. Wake on LAN, disabled. But still, it would pulse on, a heartbeat in the dark, waiting for me. Worse, my smart plugs would click on and off, lamps blinking in a pattern that felt deliberate. The notifications came at unexpected hours, always unsigned, strings of nonsense characters or weird reversed timestamps. And every time, every damn time, right after a notification, I'd get that crawling, prickling sensation up and down my spine, like static, yes, but closer, more personal. People call it electronic presence sensation, that psychic twitch you get when you know you're being watched on camera, even if you can't see the lens. Only this wasn't the normal paranoia of webcam covers or phone mics.
This was targeted, focused, like someone was learning my habits through the gaps between pings. I tried to brush it off, tell myself I'd overloaded on caffeine and horror movies, but the patterns were getting harder to ignore. Files on my desktop started to change names in the night, even after I reset my password. Photos in my gallery showed strange digital ghosts, shadowy figures in corners, extra reflections where there shouldn't be glass. One night, I found my text cursor moving on its own, tapping out 3 words in some language I didn't know. Echo found you. Even in public spaces, it didn't stop. Walking past a convenience store, the automatic doors would open before I got close. At work, the break room TV, old and never used, would flicker to life when I passed through, always tuned to a dead channel, always at 2:13 a.m. according to the broken clock on its bezel. My sense of safety, the ordinary, invisible trust you put in your own devices, was crumbling. It was as if something on the other side had dialed into my reality, and now it wouldn't hang up. I started reaching out online, hunting dark corners and old threads for anyone who'd had the same experience. At first, I found people, rambling stories, deep dives into cursed servers and mirror networks that snare insomniacs at night. We'd swap details, desperate for validation. But there was a pattern. Most people would stop replying after a few exchanges. Posts vanished, entire profiles deleted or wiped clean like they never existed. Their absence wasn't natural. It was engineered, pruned like weeds from some digital garden. Fear became my new normal. I started tracking which devices flickered to life at 2 a.m., tracking the way reflections lagged, how every uninvited notification felt like a knock at the door. I tried to tell myself it would pass, but the truth was, I couldn't imagine any way back to normal. My reality was corrupted, line by line, overwritten by something older and more patient than I could ever hope to resist. Still, there was one ugly comfort. I wasn't completely alone. Not yet. There were traces of others scattered like breadcrumbs in the dark, and as long as I could still find their stories, I still had hope that there was a way out, or at least a way to warn whoever was reckless enough to watch their network menu at 2 a.m. and see that impossible name waiting for them too.
I wish I could say I kept all this bottled up, struggled through it alone, but that's not how fear works. Not this flavor anyway. Fear thrives in isolation, sure, but it also drives you to search for anyone who might understand. When you're neck deep in something unexplainable, anonymity isn't just comfort, it's an anchor. So I finally broke, logged into one of those lurker accounts I never thought I'd use, and posted a confession on a horror forum, one of those places where people swap stories about weird numbers, haunted URLs, cursed video files, and the kind of glitches no help desk could ever debug. I titled my post, "Network at 2 a.m. Anyone else?" I laid it out, no embellishments. The appearance, the times, the corrupted data, the new shadows and old photos. I even referenced that infamous dream number story and sprinkled in a couple of in-jokes to let other horror heads know I wasn't a tourist. If this is like mirrorminer.exe, I'm uninstalling my entire apartment. I expected, at best, a handful of bored replies, maybe some troll bait, or the usual creepypasta in progress tags. Instead, it exploded, at least by lurker forum standards. People started replying with stories that felt like echoes of my own. One user, Reverb Loss, described a network with a different name but the same ritual, always between 2 and 2:10 a.m., always vanishing if you tried to screen record it. Another post was just a string of garbled characters, but buried in the mess was a warning, like a copy-paste gone wrong. Do not connect after 2:07. Someone with the handle EtherTrace claimed that if you watched the network list without blinking, you'd see faces in the icons. They drew one in ASCII, hauntingly familiar, even though, or maybe because, the eyes were wrong. And then the rules started to emerge. I copied them down, desperate, like a digital grimoire. Never connect after 2:07 a.m., never try to trace its location. If you see your own IP twice in the network log, shut everything down. don't answer messages that ask, "Are you there?" It was surreal and hilarious until someone posted a screenshot of their network menu, liminal gate XXXX, similar enough to mine that my stomach curdled. The thread became a kind of mutual dare. People started reaching out in DMs, asking if I'd tried packet sniffers or if I'd gotten the mirror view. Someone posted fragments of a disconnect code, basically lorem ipsum with a few all-caps warnings, but when anyone tried to follow up, their post would vanish. And then the chill. One user, Overpass31, said outright that they'd traced the signal using some custom tool. They bragged about it, claimed the source didn't just ping back, it reached out. The next day, their account was gone. Not banned, not deactivated, gone. Wiped so thoroughly you'd think it never existed. Threads they'd posted in were missing chunks of conversation, as if reality itself had glitched and corrected for the anomaly. That's when I realized, whatever this was, it wasn't content to haunt me alone. It was spreading, or maybe it always had, keeping us isolated by erasing the trails right as we got close to something like the truth. The comfort of the community faded, replaced by the knowledge that I might be risking more than just another sleepless night. Look, I know a lot of you are watching because you get a thrill out of these stories, or maybe you're scrolling at 2 a.m. with a phone that's warmer than it should be. Maybe you've seen something weird in your Wi-Fi menu and just laughed it off. If that's you, now's your chance. Tell me what you've seen. Comment below. Drop your network horror. Maybe if enough of us compare notes before it picks us off one by one, we'll figure out what the hell this thing wants, or at least how to stay a page ahead in the rulebook. But if you've ever been tempted to trace that impossible signal, don't. 1 minute you're swapping ghost stories, the next you're a blank space in someone else's recollection, another vanished user. Community takes you so far before it too gets rewritten. And lately, I'm starting to see those glitches in my offline life too. The line between us and it is getting thinner every hour. If you're reading this, be careful. Some connections you might not come back from.
I don't remember falling asleep. I couldn't tell you if I even made it to bed that night. All I know is that for a single, weightless moment, I was nowhere. Then suddenly, everywhere at once, 1,000 screens flickering in the dark, each one reflecting some warped angle of my own face. My eyes snapped open and everything was wrong. I was sitting upright on my living room couch, phone clenched white knuckle in my fist, sweat soaked through my t-shirt and pooling behind my knees. Every light was off except the TV, which I hadn't turned on. Its glow painted the walls in cold, jittery flashes of static. Panic flared as I tried to remember how I'd gotten there. My last real memory was shutting my laptop lid, making tea, promising myself I'd stay off the internet for the rest of the night. But here I was, no recollection, just a gnawing fear that I'd lost time, like some crucial file had been overwritten in my own brain. That's when I noticed the clocks. Every single digital display in my apartment, oven, microwave, alarm clock, thermostat, blinked 0213 in the same angry blood-red numerals, pulsing in perfect sync with my racing pulse. My phone buzzed in my hand, and for a second I was sure I'd see a Facebook notification or junk email. Instead, the lock screen was a boiling field of static. When I swiped, the phone vibrated, a low, sustained hum that felt like it was resonating deeper than just in my hand, rattling my chest, my teeth. I staggered up, lightheaded, and saw shadows gathering at the edges of the TV's light. They weren't ghosts or monsters, nothing as literal as that, just a distortion in space, a warping of what should have been empty air. Outlines too tall and too thin, flickering like a buffering video caught at the edge of Wi-Fi range. Wherever I looked, they seemed to drift just out of my line of sight, always at the limit of peripheral vision, never quite allowing me to focus. It was like my reality itself was being throttled. I tried every light switch on my way to the kitchen, desperately craving normalcy. Nothing worked. The only thing that responded was the glow from my refrigerator's water dispenser, which spilled an ugly red sheen across the floor, illuminating nothing and everything at once. I turned back to the living room. The TV had changed channels without input.
Now it's cycled through footage I'd never recorded. Grainy security cam shots of empty streets, a staircase I recognized as the one outside my building, but warped and impossible, stretching overhead into blackness. With a lurch, I saw a frame of myself, paused in the rain from a night weeks ago, but in the video, a shape followed just outside the arc of light, blurred, always behind me. I fumbled for the remote. The batteries fell out, no use. The interface began displaying messages, flickering in and out like ransom notes. You are now connected. Welcome. Sometimes, as the channel flickered, I'd catch a glimpse of other faces, people I didn't know, pale and transfixed by their own screams, eyes sunken, the same red O213 reflecting back from half-lit rooms. Sometimes the shot would stutter, and those eyes would flick towards the camera, as if noticing me watching them watching me. Then a sound cut through the static, a high, distant dial tone, like an old modem or a phone left off the hook for too long. My hand shook so badly I could barely hold my phone. Notifications exploded on the lock screen as though someone were furiously typing from the other side. Connection established. Do not move. Stay connected. I tried scrolling past them, but the screen began displaying events that hadn't happened yet. Texts from my mother I hadn't received, emails from work threatening disciplinary action, breaking news alerts about things that hadn't happened but now seemed horribly plausible. There was a picture from my own camera roll, a photo I'd never taken, showing me at my open window in the dead of night, phone raised, a shadow stretching over my shoulder. My reflection in the TV flickered, the lag now a full second behind my actual motions. The coughing static resolved into a voice, faint, barely a breath but there, saying my username, the one only I used for forgotten accounts, a voice neither male nor female, familiar yet wrong. It was waiting for me, and this time it wasn't in the router. The shadows at the walls thickened and pulsed, looping the living room in a slow drift. The thin, digital edge between me and not me grew porous. My screens, laptop, TV, even the echo of my phone on slick black glass started to display identical images, recursive windows tunneling in and out of each other. For a heartbeat, I saw into a place both endlessly wide and impossibly cramped. Cables braided into archways, rooms stacked like code snippets, silhouettes waiting in clusters, all of them staring at forgotten screens. Then the direct message vibrated through. It wasn't a ping, not any platform I recognized, just a plain box overlaying everything, fighting through even my phone's do not disturb. You are now connected. Welcome. There was no sender. I tried to reply, but my words vanished as soon as I typed them, letters evaporating into glitching fragments. Outside, I thought I heard something walking the hall, heavy and deliberate, too heavy for one person. The doorknob twisted in time with the flashing clocks, all at 0213 sharp. The room pulsed red over and over, anticipation crawling at the back of my mind. I screamed for help, whispering, shouting, anything, but the only thing that answered was the static. It thickened, growing teeth, chewing every edge of reality until everything was just a suggestion. My screens flickered to black, and the final text crawled across, pixel by pixel. Always connected, never alone. A pressure built behind my eyes, like something was pushing through. My mind felt rewritten, scrambled, reorganized file by file. I squeezed my phone until my knuckles ached and prayed for any sign this was a dream. But the last thing I saw, just before every device in the room cut to black, was my own face split into 100 screens, each one smiling a little wider than I could ever in real life. And then the world fell in on itself, and I fell with it.
When you think you're losing your mind, you start grasping for any proof that someone else shares your reality. That's why even after what happened at 2:13, I desperately scrolled through my contacts, looking for anyone who might listen, hoping I could press the horror out of me and into their ears. By some strange mercy or curse, my old friend Milo picked up on the first ring. At first, I thought the distortion in his voice was my own bad connection, out of breath, stuttering, milliseconds behind. He said, "Dude, I are there, not safe," as if someone was redacting every other syllable in real time. "Milo, are you there? Man, listen, something's wrong with my Wi-Fi, my house. He interrupted, more forceful now, voice warping with raw static. "Did you connect? Not supposed to connect. Never past 7. Repeat, never past 7. My skin crawled as his voice scrambled further, modulating through tones that weren't human, like a voice changer set too high or deep, each phrase glitching in and out. Tried to trace, saw, me, window. If you see yourself, don't answer. If it asks for your. And then a sharp electronic screech cut through the call, and the line went dead. My phone shuddered in my palm, blurring his name and the call log into an unreadable jumble. I sat there, skin buzzing, listening to the silence left behind. That call didn't just feel like a warning. It felt like Milo was calling from somewhere wrong, somewhere you don't come back from. I scrounged for every scrap of lore I could remember from those forum threads, the warnings I used to laugh off. Like assembling a haunted jigsaw, I pieced together what little survived. The rules of Liminal Gate 213 became clear, not from science, but from the dread that lived in my chest. Never connect after 2:07 a.m. Early, you might get sick. Late, you're not coming back at all. Never try to trace the signal. Any device used for that becomes dirty. Your tech keeps the ghost of the connection. It learns you. If you see your own IP address duplicated in your router's device list, shut everything down. Modem, phone, power, even the breakers. Unplug, hide the devices. If the network asks you a question in any language, never answer. Not by voice, not by text, not even in your mind. The more I learned, the more it amped up the haunting. Internet searches for Liminal Gate 213 didn't just return no results. Instead, my browser would crash again, and then display a flickering, shadowed page, like an old GeoCities gone wrong. Text jittering, windows multiplying. Always the same phrase buried somewhere in the source code. Never search the name. Seeing is binding. I tried more than once to outsmart it. Private browsing, VPN, disabling JavaScript, never typing the name in full. But each attempt left some ghostly residue. Pages in my history that wouldn't clear. Bookmarks suddenly renaming themselves. Pop-up notifications at the edge of sleep with file names I never created. That night, the screens in my house started turning on at random. My phone blinked to life, camera active but the screen black, showing me nothing but the faint outline of my own face in red. My smart speaker began whispering in a broken, glitched-out melody. A child's tune played backwards, overlapping with garbled versions of my username. Windows on my computer would pop open, force close, then pop open again, as if someone else was controlling my system remotely, playing a game with no rules. The occasional message would appear half-formed, disappearing whenever I tried to screenshot it. Do you want to know where it lives? Will you let it in? My own desperation became its opening. I called Milo back, voicemail only, voice synthetic and slowed down, words reversed but somehow still pleading. Don't search it. If you get out, warn them. Warn everyone. If you hear knocking, ignore. If you hear your name, never say yes. That was the last message I ever got from him. His socials went dark, feeds wiped, even shared playlists gone to static placeholders. Another blank space in my digital life. The horror is that the rules aren't just about safety.
They're there to keep you from realizing how deep this goes. I started stumbling on references to older cases, stories scattered across forums and dead discords and comment sections, always a different network name, always appearing to the lonely and the sleepless. Every decade a new guise, 88 Void Ring, Seavergate, the Uplink Mirror. Each story filtered through warnings about not searching, about not connecting, about never tracing the door back to its source. Every story ended with erasure, lost accounts, corrupted local files, gaps in memory. I realized the rules weren't just superstition, they were boundaries written out of desperation. The only consistent rule is this: if you're reading this now, don't ever search for Liminal Gate 213, or you might see it too. That's not defiance, that's survival. Even as I write this, I can feel its pull in the bones of my house, sense the rules stretching like weak insulation between me and something hungrier than loneliness. The more you try to fight, the more it twists your world. Data lost, keys changed, the taste of ozone when you walk past a powered device. Desperation makes you want to fight, to scream back, but it's resignation, knowing the rules are only postponing what's coming, that really gets to you. At some point, every fighter gives up and becomes a messenger. That's all I am now. I'm talking to you, warning you for one selfish reason. If you're watching, maybe it'll take you before it doubles back for me. I'm sorry, this is all I can do. And with that realization, a new message arrived. No platform, just a voice whispering from a speaker that was off. Welcome back, user. Always connected. I didn't answer, not out loud anyway, but I couldn't help thinking the word yes.
When I realized the rules were meant to contain something that never intended to play fair, desperation bottomed out into panic. Maybe you know the feeling when a nightmare tilts into full waking horror and all the clever tricks stop working because suddenly nothing is just digital anymore. I prepped for a fight, using everything the threads and forums had ever suggested, each move feeling more hopeless than the last. First came the hardware attack. I yanked out router cables, slammed the power strips off, even took the batteries out of my phone and laptop. But all I managed to do was turn my apartment into a tomb, every shadow thicker, every floorboard groaning louder. When I switched everything back on, hoping to at least outlast it through brute force, the network list didn't show just one anomaly. There were dozens now. Liminal Gate 0213, Liminal Gate 0214, Door You Don't See, Returning Home. My Wi-Fi menu looked like a family reunion of things that should not exist. Each network flickered between signal bars and ghostly icons of doors, eyes, and once my own distorted face. I tried Bluetooth jammers and deleted my saved networks, but nothing worked. My devices reconnected on their own, lines of code overriding any firewalls I tried to build. Even a full phone wipe failed. The reset paused at 2:13 a.m., screen pulsing red until I gave up. The digital world began to leak, fracturing the seams of my reality. Every screen in the apartment turned on at once. TV, phone, smart speaker, microwave display, each cycling through the network names faster and faster until I could hear a shrill noise at the edge of sound. My vision tunneled, every corner of the room thrumming with the pressure of things about to burst through. I should have run, but it felt like the walls were bowing inward, gravity tilting as the lines between rooms unraveled. My reflection rippled in every black screen, 100 me's locked behind glass, each version a frame out of sync. Something began to seep from the monitors, not just light, but real oily shadow, crawling slow and heavy across the floor, gathering itself at my feet. It coalesced into a shape too broken to describe, made of angles that didn't belong in my room, stitched from strips of static and longing. Its face was a patchwork, a composite of a dozen faces I'd glimpsed in the forums, in security cam stills, in the corner of my own photos. Its voice came from every speaker at once, scrambled into a chorus that rattled my molars. I tried begging, screaming that I'd disconnect, that I'd obey the rules, that I'd wipe every device. The entity only blinked in time with my router's flicker, answering with a message splashed in flickering text over every display. Connection permanent. You belong to the network. Reality fragmented, furniture shivering under digital artifacting, walls scrolling with lines of corrupted code. My phone screen showed my living room from overhead, another impossible angle, the shadow thing hunched over my body. I couldn't feel my limbs. Pins and needles were turning to lead. My ears rang with an inhuman dial tone that alternated with words, some in English, some in that impossible glyphic language now burned behind my eyes. Images pulsed in rapid flash, splicing in and out. My front door wide open, the city outside empty, endless hallways vanishing into fog. At some point I realized I was still recording, a survival instinct maybe, or stupid hope that if I uploaded this, someone might see it before it was scrubbed, before I was erased. That's what I'm doing right now. I'm uploading this before it finds a way to stop me. If you see liminal gate 0213, do not connect to it. Don't hover over it. Don't joke in the comments. Don't even acknowledge it. Pretend it was never there. If you hear a voice calling your name from an empty device, if you see your reflection smiling when you're not, if your network list multiplies and none of the names make any sense, get out. Go analog, hide, burn what you have to. As the shadow dragged itself upright, the walls folding into a Mobius strip of screens and static, I screamed at the top of my lungs that I refused, that I was logging off for good, that I wouldn't let it win. But it only grinned wider, a smile made of corrupted pixels. The screens went black, save for a final line crawling across my laptop. Session terminated, but the connection remains. I don't know if this upload will last more than a few minutes before it's purged, or if anyone still following this has managed to stay one step ahead. But if you're watching, remember, curiosity isn't just dangerous here, it's fatal. And as the last thing I see before the power finally dies, before everything inside me flickers to static, is my own pale face, reflected everywhere, nodding yes to something I never ever wanted. Feed cuts out. Static swallows everything.
If you're hearing this, it means someone managed to recover the recording. I'm not sure how you found it or who you are. Maybe you're just curious. Maybe you've stayed up too late scrolling past stories you think are just fiction. Or maybe, like me, you've seen something in your Wi-Fi list that doesn't belong. You're probably wondering if any of this is real. All I know is, after I got locked out for good, a friend messaged me out of nowhere asking why my account went dark. They said they managed to pull the last file I left behind, a backup hidden somewhere I don't remember creating. They thought it was a prank until their own phone glitched at 2:13 a.m., until they started seeing that network too. So now I'm asking you directly, have you ever seen a network you can't explain pop up near you just at the edge of sleep? One that appears, then vanishes before you can even take a screenshot? Tell your story in the comments if you have the nerve. Compare notes with each other. Maybe together, someone can figure out how to break the pattern, or at least warn the next person. But if my story disappears suddenly, if this video is suddenly unavailable, you'll know why. You'll know it wasn't just paranoia or a slow-burning breakdown. You'll know that sometimes reality is soft, too soft, and all it takes is one careless click to let something through. So for your own sake, don't check the Wi-Fi menu tonight. Don't look too closely at anything unnamed or unfamiliar, especially if it only shows up after midnight. And if you do see it, above all else, do not connect. Do not engage. Just forget you ever noticed it and hope it forgets you in return. Because if you don't, well, you'll understand soon enough. Fear isn't exclusive to fiction. It's always searching for the next connection. And tonight, that might just be you.